It is 10 o'clock. I filibustered to 10 o'clock on purpose. All right, so now it's time to bring in Bart Keeler. Couple of things to get into with Bart. We've got cards and calls. We've got Yanks abroad. I did have a philosophical question to ask Bart about, but I also wanted to get Bart's thoughts on the NWSL getting hip. And so with hour number 2, it is time to bring in Bart Keeler, who is that good, huh?
John, it was a great holiday weekend that was ruined by the looming conversation we were going to have about NWSL being
hip.
Dumb.
Okay.
Dumb.
All right. But
I am great. I hope. I know you were sick. Sorry to hear that. I hope everyone else had a decent holiday.
I'm fighting it now. I'm fighting it presently, and so that's why I'm having to constantly hydrate, because I'm Zycamming myself to death. And literally, they're like, okay, every 3 or 4 hours or until you need it. And I'm like, okay, well, then we're going to keep going. And so literally it was, and this one individual who is about as headstrong as it gets, it's like, just go lay down, have a cold. It's okay. But they still wanted to integrate and be a part of everything and all that. And so I need to take stock with the boss and myself and anybody else that was around this individual. How many has this individual rubbed off on? And for full disclosure, it was my brother-in-law. So we'll see. We'll see if he's over it and has just passed it on to the rest of us as I continue to fight through it. Okay. So do you want to start with the NWSL getting hit? Do you want to go there?
Let's start with it. Let's start with it.
Okay, because over this week and next, if we don't get into 2025's Bart Keeler High School Yearbook and look at soccer and find out who homecoming king and queen were, and Miss Congeniality and most likely to succeed and all that kind of stuff, and who just got their yearbook signed by the librarian. Thank you for returning all of your books on time. You're a great student. So the yearbook exists. That might be some this week, some next week as we get into 26. Okay, so NWSL and HIP. This is something that we've been discussing for the last couple of weeks, and it is something that when you and I were getting into the discussion, explaining the rule now that it is up and running. So it is now allowing stars to be paid up to $1 million above the current salary cap. So it's the high impact player rule. And like I said, I refer to it as like the DP or the Larry Bird exception, whatever, because calling it the HIP rule, there's too many jokes that can be made and it's too easy. So you're trying to keep Trinity Rodman in the league. And it also looks like Katerina Macario might be, being courted by Bay.
We'll see. Yeah.
And so, like I said, that's once again, that's where we are in this time of the calendar. Where
she's had some success in the Bay Area playing soccer. So,
yes. Yes. So it appears that there has been some tire kicking, some reports that Kat Macario and Bay FC might be kicking tires on something, on a future relationship. So league source previously said the mechanism was, quote, bigger than one player. Now, the new rule allows players to be paid above the salary cap as established by the league CBA if they meet certain criteria. The criteria are driving me crazy. And to me, it is restraint. It is restraint of trade specifically. The NWSL releases details of the criteria, metrics including Ballon d'Or top 30, appearing on annual lists compiled by sports publications that rank the world's best players, and game time for the U.S. women's national team. The league says that the rule change could add up to $115 million in additional compensation through the existing CBA, which runs through 2030. And this is from the article with Olsen and Griffin from The Athletic. Designed to provide clubs with expanded flexibility to attract and retain high-impact players, close quote. Does not take effect until July 1st, but teams can sign qualified players immediately as long as the use of the rule does not start until the stated date. Jessica Berman in the announcement. Quote, ensuring our teams can compete for the best players in the world is critical to the continued growth of our league. NWSL-PA opposed the league's decision to move forward with the rule's implementation without formally bargaining with them after the union rejected the proposed rule last week. Exec Director Megan Burke told The Athletic they didn't think the league, quote, clearly thought through all of the practical implementation, end quote, of the rule. Burke, the union, in a statement. Under federal labor law, changes to compensation under the salary cap are a mandatory subject of bargaining, not a matter of unilateral discretion. Fair pay is realized through fair, collectively bargained compensation systems, not arbitrary classifications. A league that truly believes in the value of its players would not be afraid to bargain over it. End quote. Bookmark. Okay, go.
Well, John, I think we have two issues here. First being, I think we agree, you and I specifically, that the hip idea is not the most terrible thing, right?
Mm-mm.
Allowing a roster designation and a salary budget designation for a player or however many they want, which I will say that is the only silver lining in all this, is it does not seem to be a cap on how many players have to be or could be. I mean, in theory, you could have 10 players all making
Right, but
$100,000
yes,
more,
that's
but
big.
but that's obviously not going to be. But you get my point, right?
Yeah.
But what we disagree with vehemently, I think, is the stupid, inconsistent, and downright biased way that they are making teams justify spending money on these players. This reeks of stupid MLS rule imposed by owners who don't actually want to spend money.
Okay.
This seems like something that a certain owner of an MLS club in, oh, I don't know, let's say a Missouri River bordering state that is not the namesake of that state, or a certain club that plays in a Pacific Northwest city that is not in the United States. This seems like a rule that those types of folks would come up with because they understand the need for the visual
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, we're spending more money, but actually have zero desire to do so. And that is the first problem, that I think the rule itself, right? This mechanism doesn't make sense because first off, there's like a lot of addendums to this. There's category A or one subcategory A. So we've covered 1A.
Right.
1B is, or maybe 1A1 is the the metrics they're using are inherently biased. How many times, maybe not on this show, but have you listened to me or people on this side of the pond rant about women's soccer listicles? We could go through the BBC article recently where there's not an American in like the top 25, which is bonkers.
Yeah.
But or you look at the FIFA Pro list and it's basically all England and Spain players, and you're going, where's Bunny Shaw, the most prolific scorer in the WSL? Where is any U.S. women's national team player, right? Including the ones who play in these leagues that y'all tell us are the best that have ever existed, right? That is a problem. That is inherently a problem. We know the Ballon d'Or is an incredibly flawed system that rewards Europeans and non-Europeans who happen to do well in tournaments during that particular year. But not really, because Americans still get shafted out of it as long as you're a player who plays for Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't make sense, right? So under these metrics, it's like you get, listen, and I'm not saying we shouldn't go get her, but Aitana Bonmati and Alexa Putellas,
Oh.
and for some reason still Lucy Bronze, okay? Those are the players you're looking at. They come in here, but like a player, we'll just use her as an example because I think she technically qualifies, but is so far down these lists that she, you know, I think would struggle if she's not getting USWNT minutes. We'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
Emily Fox is a great example of, okay, well, she's very lowly ranked on these lists, partially because she is a right back. Let's just call a spade, and they don't like to give credit to defenders the way they should. Shout out to all the defenders in the chat. But there's her. There's a player, Sam Coffey, to me, would be a great example of this, who deserves, I think, in my opinion, to be a high impact player, right? You look at her production for Thorns and the women's national team and you go, well, there she is. But luckily, John, they're in the top 11 minutes for the U.S. women's national team. And now we've gone backwards into the time when U.S. soccer was subsidizing NWSL player salaries because they played for the national team. And it's not quite the same, but you're going, okay, wait, why does why the women's national team? What about Timo Shawinga, who, as we've talked about, deserves this, right? Barbara Banda, who deserves this. They're not getting the love that they deserve from a lot of these listicle publications, and they're never going to qualify under the women's national team. You know,
Metric.
I think if you want to say, like, I think it shouldn't be, top, what was it, 11 for women's national team. I think it should be all national teams. Like, if you are a top minutes earner for your national team, that is a way to judge. And that's just the thing, is now we're arguing with the criteria instead of saying these criteria are dumb. If you as an owner feel like this player is a high impact player for you and your team, pay them more. That's just where it should be. And that's where somehow they've created a rule that's more confusing than MLS could create. And that's crazy. How did you do that? Congratulations, NWSL. You made something more convoluted than your men's league, which is quite the accomplishment.
So here's the addition. Tamara Griffin wrote something on Christmas Eve Day. So here's the update to this. So
By the way, bless all the NWSL reporters who had to cover this during the holidays, because I'm sure this is not the gift they wanted.
Right. A player needs to only satisfy one of 8 metrics outlined by the rule. Once again, geared, and this is Griffin's wording in her article, with each geared toward quantifying their skill set and commercial marketability. Once again, here's your rundown. Top 30 Ballon d'Or, top 40 among the Guardian's top 100 footballers, or the top 40 of ESPN FC's top 50 football players in the world in the 2 years before the current league season. The player can also have made Sports Pro Media's list of the 150 most marketable athletes within a year of the current league season. Now, to your point, player can also qualify if they rank among the top 11 U.S. women's national team players with the most minutes in the last 2 calendar years. A keeper would need to have played the most minutes in that position with the USWNT, or a high-impact player, as defined by the league, could include anyone who was selected as a league MVP finalist or was named to the year-end best 11 first team within the last 2 seasons. And so that's your criteria as listed by Tamara Griffin over at The Athletic. Megan Burke, once again, NWSLPA. Players feel that this is a rushed decision to solve a short-term problem that will have long-term consequences, sharing the belief it circumvents this collective bargaining process, unilaterally establishes criteria that relies on third-party publications to drive player compensation, end quote. They added, it quote, privileges a biased voting system that heavily favors European players and does not account for, to the point that you were making, high impact that Brazilian, African, and Japanese players have had and will continue to have on the NWSL, end quote.
So I do want a point of clarification. In the Guardian top 100 or top 100 footballers, okay, Timo Shawinga and Barbara Banda are both in the top 15. Khadija Shaw is number 18. But do you want to know the highest ranked U.S. women's national team player on that list?
Hit me.
It's Emily Fox. You know where she lands?
42.
24.
Okay.
24, John.
Okay.
So the high, and this is just, look, we're wearing a U.S. shirt today, so hey, but you're telling me the highest ranked player of the number 2 ranked team in the world, the team that is a current reigning gold medalist, and the team that has 4 total World Cups, right? The highest ranked player on the Guardian list is number 24. Oh, and it happens to be the one who plays in the Women's Super League. Just so happens. Right. After that, you have Lindsay Heats at 27. Trinity Rodman, this is the Trinity Rodman rule, right? We jokingly call it that.
Yeah.
She barely comes in at number 35. Right, at the top 50. So you only have 3 U.S. women's national team players in the top 50, yet you have like 12 Spain players, right? What are we doing here?
Griffin continues, of the 50 voters invited to participate in Ballon d'Or, 29 based in Europe. Nigeria was the only African country to vote, and no players from the continent of Asia landed in the top 30. Griffin, the Guardian...
Japan team, by the way, who has given fits to the U.S. and every other national team they played. We can talk about Brazil. They have Mart on here. That's about it. But Brazil, by the way, beat England the last time they played each other. Interesting. Um, it- Brazil, by the way, a silver medalist at the last major tournament. I'm sorry that Europeans don't think the Olympics matter. That's a you problem, not an us problem. Sorry, we go out and try to win every tournament we play in. Y'all should try that, maybe.
2025 Sports Pro Most Marketable List, Alexia Putellas, highest ranking women's footballer at 36. Media and Events Company says it compiles the yearly list based on an athlete's brand strength, addressable
Which
market.
is insane because you
and
have Trinity
economics.
Rodman. Like, I'm sorry, that just, like, to me, and nothing against Putellas, who is a wonderful player. Like, that's the problem we're getting into here, is now we're trying to argue that Aitana Bonmati and Mariona Caldente and Alexa Putellas aren't good at soccer. Like, that's just stupid. Like, I'm not arguing against them. That's not what we're trying to do, right? Like, it's just saying that there's no way that Putellas, who has been hurt on and off for the past 5 years, basically since the 2023 World Cup, isn't, maybe not 5 years, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Isn't deserving of that spot. She is a great player, but she's just not at that level anymore. That's okay to say, right? And a little bit, and I hate to say this because I do love her, a little bit on the same side as Lindsay Heath. She's getting a lot of cachet for things she has done in her career, not where she's at currently. And that's the other problem with a lot of these lists in the women's soccer game, is they're judging people based on what they have done, not what they are doing. So again, yes, you only have to meet one of the 8 criteria. But again, a top 11 women's national team minutes. Well, that's kind of hard. I mean, we'll talk about her when we get to. We'll talk about some of these when we get to my list. But like, you're telling me Jaden Shaw isn't a hip player? She was hurt a lot this year, so she wasn't playing for the national team. She wasn't playing for her club. Like, that just, those things don't connect, John.
Other women's football players on the list. This is Sports Pro's most marketable in 25. Beth Mead at 46. Bonmati at 63. Lucy Bronze and Mary Earps at 70 and 71. Millie Bright at 79. Trinity Rodman at 120. 120th on the list. The Sports Pro most marketable from 2025.
That's crazy because Trinity Rodman is in actual commercials
Mape Leon at
in the
123.
U.S. Yeah.
Lindsay Heaps at 127. Lauren James, Sophia Wilson, and Marta, 137 to 139. Pernille Harder, 141. Patrick Guijaro at 146. Kira Walsh and Sama Parayuelo at 149 and 150. Once again, the point is made. African and Asian players are missing, as are South American players outside of Marta. Most of the same players also can't qualify with high-impact USWNT minutes, leaving only Ballon d'Or, Guardian, ESPN FC, and NWSL awards as realistic pathways for those players. And so now there's an ability to adjust the rules, and so there's an idea there. Current NWSL players who don't meet criteria but would otherwise be considered high-impact: Lacey Santos, Rosamond Kawasi, Rebecca Bernal, and Gift Monday, Dudinia and Gia Corley, Hina Sugita, Claudia Dickey, or Taylor Flint. And the player, and this is the point that I have made, and this is in her copy. Or even more worrying, the players who have yet to be discovered. Those players are automatically excluded because the rules require them to have proven their worth in some way, whether through their accomplishments on the field or their marketability off it. And so that, to me, is the larger hook in all of this. If you don't trust your front office, plural, front offices would be the plural. If you don't trust your front offices within your own league to judge talent that they deem to be DP, then what are they doing?
And that's, I think, where we're both at, John, is I think it's fine to put up some financial barriers of, okay, they need to have, you have to qualify by making X amount of money, and then you can make more, right? Again, I think the DP rule from MLS was almost too good to copy and paste, maybe, is what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Because it really is saying, like, look, anyone who makes above basically the player maximum, which they don't really have in NWSL, but like, you could do that.
Yeah.
Is now looking at a high impact player thing. That's fine.
Sure.
Or, you could just be egalitarian about it and say, look, if the team wants to designate them as a high impact player and give them, a slice of whatever amount of money they end up coming to, that's fine. But that just, again, John, the problem here is this brings up the law
Yeah.
And the Players Association did not like this rule.
Right.
They came back with, I think a very modest proposal to barter, right? Like this is a bargaining situation. We are in negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, okay, this is what you want to do. This is what we want to do. You're going, we're saying just increase it by $1 million. Don't have any restrictions.
Yeah.
The owner's going, no, we want to increase it by $1 million, but we're going to put all these restrictions on it for whatever reason. There's a middle ground, not even a middle ground. There is ground in the middle of this, somewhere between these two, that you can find it and say, okay, well, maybe we increase the overall salary cap by 250.
Yeah.
While also carving out another 500,000 for or whatever for these high impact. Like
if you take that million number, then
which I think both sides have agreed upon.
That's fine. And so if you take that million, say, and if you were to randomly just sit there and go, okay, how about this? If we trim the million number that you can pay above and beyond, although I like the million just as a round number and it proves a player's worth.
It's also not that much money in the grand scheme.
In the grand scheme of things. And when you have some owners in the NWSL who are not afraid to spend money, and we've seen this, it is like any other league where you're going to have those owners that want to and others that don't. If they want to develop players through a youth system, that should be their prerogative. If they want to spend money, that should be their prerogative. I would be fine with expanding the overall cap an X amount. If you expanded the cap another $1 million, that's fine. If you don't, then sit there and take that million that you want to sit there and expand the if you want to pay the DP, the NWSL DP, that $1 million, add money that you don't use. How about this? Money that you don't use in that million that you would pay your NWSL DP, that gets added to your cap figure.
Sure. Yeah.
And so if you only wanted to pay, if you only had one NWSL DP and you wanted to pay that individual an extra $500,000 a year, okay, cool. You've got $500,000 left over. Add that to your cap to bring in players that would be those high-level TAM players that we talk about in Major League Soccer. And so they're right up against it, but they're not a DP yet. They could be if you wanted. So take that million and just kind of figure out, okay, what if we use that million to wiggle around and either pay a DP or boost our own cap? That gives yourself some financial flexibility. Like I said, I'm just spitballing this right now with you. It's an idea.
And that's the thing that bothers me is it seems like the owners haven't wanted to put any actual thought into this, right? This seems like someone had a brainstorming. Listen, someone coming from the creative world, brainstorming sessions can be really fun. They can also be really bad because someone came up with an idea and they did the whole plussing thing that Disney started decades ago, where you're not allowed to say no to an argument. You can only say yes or build on it. And they went, "Oh, I like that. What if we do that?" And then they came up with this amalgamation of a stupid rule, right? And again, it's not so much that we're having a high impact player rule, because I agree with you, John. Like I think that's a great solution, right? Of, hey, you have $1 million, you can either give that to designated players who make above a certain salary, who are at the salary limit, and you need to pay them more, or you can spread that out to the rest of your roster. Those are multiple ways to build a roster, right? Both could be very successful depending on how you use it.
Yeah.
It just gives a little bit more freedom. That's fine. Everyone wants the same thing from NWSL. It's just to spend a little bit more money to keep up with Chelsea and Lyon buying all these players, right?
Yes.
That's what's happening.
Yes.
Barcelona's getting into it too. Not quite as much because they do have a great academy system.
Well,
but like Bayern Munich is also starting to spend money.
Pay money, man. I just like
well,
being in $1 gazillion of debt.
Bayern Munich's also starting to go, oh, we can do this. We can spend money on the women's team and be good. That they're figuring it out as well. It just is really frustrating that, again, the Players Association said, hey, here's a little bit simpler solution. Just expand it by $1 million. And obviously the Players Association is looking at this going, this will help, in theory, all players, because that means everyone could have a slice of the $1 million pie.
Right.
As opposed to 3 players having a slice of the $1 million pie, or whatever it ends up being.
Yeah.
Or, as you pointed out, worse, I think teams don't utilize it.
I mean, like
And
I
then
said,
there's $1
if
million
you
just sitting there. And so I like your solution a lot, John.
I mean, just if you don't, if you get that extra million added to your coffers, fine. If you want to spend it on academy players, great. You want to spend it on infrastructure, fine. You want to spend it on players that have been lifers for you, just you take that million, do
Yeah.
whatever you want with it. You can add it to your cap. You can sit there and give 5 players an extra $100,000 each. You can whatever. Take that million and play with it however you want. I still think though, being a free market kind of guy and having to compete against what's going on in Europe, look, make a messy rule. Yeah, and that's where I thought this was going initially when you were having the NWSL trying to be hip. I thought that's where they were going with it, but I think you still need to head in that direction. Bring the stars in, and if you want to have, that maxed out player, and then work on endorsements and prove these listicles wrong about marketability for Trinity Rodman et al. It's there are so many ways that the NWSL could be a fantastic example to the European continent. Hey, we're the best league top to bottom in the world. Here's how we're going to address this. And we're going to bring and it's like, look, I would love it if Jessica Berman was at Cape Hatteras or Martha's Vineyard and had an NWSL flag and just planted it and stared across the Atlantic Ocean at everybody in Europe. And it's like, all right, game on, bang. And it's just like, all right, we got owners that are serious. Michelle Kang knows what it's like in Europe, and she knows what it's like in Washington.
Yep.
She would be one of those. It's like, all right, look, you want to do this? Let's do this. You want to do the messy thing with Trinity Rodman? You do the messy thing with Trinity Rodman. You max out her salary, you turn her into a DP, and you work on the endorsement deals so she stays. Chase these deals that that can be there for the marketability of all of your players. And then when those players are marketable, that makes your league more marketable, I would imagine. When you have all of these talent and all of these players where the checks don't bounce and you ain't worried about where direct deposits coming from.
Well, and that is still, I think, overall, and we'll address some of the comments in the chat because this is just it's one of those things that I think is very important to the health and growth of soccer in this country. We are at a major inflection point. Now, luckily here in the US, we have had multiple inflection points in the women's game that have allowed us to continue to grow. NWSL is still the most prosperous and long-standing league that we've had in this country. And John, as you and I will both fight, that is still the best top to bottom league in the world. Top to bottom.
Yep.
And so really when you're looking at this, you are trying to keep players like Alyssa Thompson, Naomi Girma, and Trinity Rodman from leaving for better money. That's basically what it comes to.
Yeah.
I don't think Emily Fox necessarily left for better money to Arsenal. Now, a little bit that's probably to do with it, but I think she felt, no, I want to go here. This seems like a better way to build my career. That's fine. Players like Lindsay Heaps, Lily Johannes, even Corbin Schrader, they have found themselves a great career, right, in the European. That's fine. That is good. We want diversity on our national team, and that doesn't just mean your skin color. It also means your background and how you play and where you play. That's a good thing, right? But what we don't want is, like we saw this year with Alyssa Thompson going, well, you can't pay me what Chelsea can pay me.
Yeah.
And Alyssa Thompson is one of those high-impact players on and off the field. Let's be real honest, right? She is someone who I think it's fair to say has earned her starting spot in the national team over multiple years of good production and is making a case for herself that even when our best players like Sophia Wilson or Mal Swanson are coming back, she could say, this is my spot. You got to win it back from me, right? That's where she's at. You want your stars and you want your domestic stars in your league. There's nothing wrong with saying that, right?
Yeah.
You just don't want them to leave because of money or feel like maybe a team couldn't give her the money to match. Now, it's very possible. And again, I'll go back to the Emily Fox example. Louisville probably did not see the worth of paying a right back a little bit more money just to keep her.
Well, and
no offense, I think Emily Fox is great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Louisville, when it comes to budgetary constraints, like I said, I don't know where
I don't know where Soccer
Louisville-
Holdings is.
Yeah, so I don't know where Soccer Holdings is when it comes to their budgetary constraints when it comes to Lou City versus where they are with racing. And so that
is a reality for all teams in every league, right? There are teams in La Liga on the men's side that they get to a point where they go, we gotta sell this player because we need money for the rest of the team, right? Looking at you, Barcelona, but oh wait, you don't actually do that. It is going to be a reality. Like I'm thinking of Houston, although I think they have the money, they don't choose to spend it. Orlando is a little bit into this issue where I think hopefully they fixed it because they realize, if you do spend a little bit of money, you might win an NWSL championship and you might be making the playoffs year after year. Just a possibility. That's all I'm saying. You're going to have those teams, and I do think Louisville is on the lower end of capability.
Yeah,
right.
But I mean, when you've got a coach like Bev Yanez, I mean, you can coach and navigate. If you have a coach and a system that is successful, you can work your way around not spending that money.
Look at MLS and the two teams we had in the MLS Cup final this year.
Sure.
You have one team who doesn't believe in salary limits, and one team that does believe that your team is better if you if you buy, I don't want to say equitably, but
strategically,
spending money in good ways across your roster, right? I mean, look, I'm sorry, I love the kid, but Miami won with Rocco Rios Novo in net. Let's not pretend like they were just stacked at every position.
I mean,
right? I mean, he's fine, but like, let's not kid ourselves here on that front. There's a reason they went out and got Dane St. Clair immediately after the season ended.
I mean,
nothing against Rocco, good kid. I'm just saying, they in Miami said, let's buy the big players and spend our TAM on important players, and then we'll figure out the rest by who knows what.
NIL or what have you. I mean, seriously, that's how I would look at this. It's like, okay, you max out your dudes, you find your NIL, which is separate and apart from the system. And then honestly, like I said, with me and a Trinity Rodman type or like an Emily Fox type, and I don't know why Lindsay Heaps wouldn't want to be playing back closer to San Diego. I'm just saying.
Or her hometown of Denver.
I mean,
which is opening a team in a couple years.
So I've heard. So I mean, legitimately, I would like to see, and I will effort both the PA and the league to have this discussion about this and the concerns and the confidence that they both have. But what I would do is let the cap be the cap. You want to add that $1 million, fine. You want to sit there and you want to drop it on 5 players at 500. You want to put 1 player at 500. You want to take that extra 500 and boost your cap figure. That's fine. But then above and beyond your DP, then do your NIL deals, and you'll see Trinity Rodman on a bunch of television ads and billboards and everything, and doing the TikToks and everything else. Let that NIL deal be independent of the cap and what she's making with the league. And then that way your marketability for these players shines out. And then in turn, it should make the league more marketable worldwide, because you see all of these players like a Puteas and a Bonmati, just as an example. If they wanted to sit there, it's like, oh, I see what Trinity Rodman's doing. I see what Emily Fox is doing. I see what, Alyssa Nair is doing. I'm thinking that's really cool, because every 2 weeks I get direct deposit and the thing doesn't bounce. And then I get NIL money. I could be wearing an orange apron and helping folks out at home improvement locations. And you bring in what you're doing is you're flipping the script on Europe by doing something like that. Am I barking up the wrong?
No, I think again, John, that's the problem here. Is it seems like there was no actual thought in fleshing out this rule. It was just someone had an idea and they ran with it.
Okay. Well, like I said, and I will effort the PA and the league to discuss this as we go into 26.
And I think to wrap it all up, John, before we move on, because we've been talking about this for 30 minutes. I mean, it deserves it. Don't get me wrong, but
no doubt.
The TLDR of it all.
Yes.
the rule itself is unnecessarily convoluted.
Mm.
And it seems like they did this without CBA negotiation and approval from the PA, which is a problem.
Yeah.
And
National Labor Relations Board might have something to say about that.
right. And so now obviously I'm sure that lots of lawyers on both sides have looked at this, and I'm not sure what NWSL's lawyers feel about, you know, this decision not having to be approved by the CBA. I'm sure they have their argument and language from the agreement that says, oh no, actually we can.
Yeah.
But I think the problem here still is that's not a good faith approach,
Yeah.
right? And that is again a problem with when we talk about pay equality.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't even a gender thing. This is just a pay equality and workers' rights.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into some icky stuff that we don't want to have to get into. NWSL better be ready for a lawsuit.
Yeah, it's this
Or
could,
multiple lawsuits. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, you could have individual players doing it. You could have the PA on behalf of individual players. It's just something to keep an eye on down
I
the road.
mean, in theory, you could have, I don't know. I'm trying to find one who's not in this top 40 who plays here in the US.
Olivia Moultrie.
I'll actually take one. Okay, so Sofia Cantori,
Mm-hmm.
an Italian national team player.
Mhm.
Italy's obviously done pretty well this year, but not a U.S. women's national teamer. So she does not qualify
Right.
for the top 11 minutes in that way. She is
Right.
listed 44 on the Guardian's top 100 list, right?
Yeah.
Which is outside of the metric.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't have all the other lists, but like she's an example of, well, you could argue that Washington Spirit see her as a very high impact player.
Yeah.
Or Gift Monday is another example of someone who
Right.
is a hugely impactful player.
Yes.
Not on these lists. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, don't they just in theory, you can
Mhm.
say, well, they're high impact for us.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
examples given: Santos, Kawasi, Bernal, and Gift Monday at Washington, Dudinha and Corley in San Diego, Sugita, Angel City, Claudia Dickey,
Hina
Seattle,
Sugita is a great example of this, actually, I think. Yeah.
and then Taylor Flint at Racing Louisville.
Mhm.
So those were the examples that were given in the piece. Yeah, I mean, this is something that obviously we got to put a bookmark in. We got to keep an eye on it and be vigilant about making sure that we continue to find it. See, we even burned through a cup of coffee with Bart talking
I
about
know. Like, we're almost done
NWSL
with this one.
getting hip.
Yeah. I do
Okay,
want to address a couple things in the chat.
go
So
for it. All right.
we'll go. I'm going to go to Abby. She does ask, what will the NWSL schedule look like when Atlanta enters in 2028? So first off, I think that's an unfair question to ask in the end of 2025 because we don't fully know. But
Right.
the NWSL schedule roughly runs March through November.
Right.
That is their footprint, basically. Now, similar to MLS, it's not the 1st of March through the end of November. They're, that. They have
you had international breaks and things like
yeah.
that.
And 2028 will obviously have a break for the Olympics, a short break, but a break for the Olympics, as they did in 2024. And then obviously 2027 and then 2031, they'll have the break for the World Cup because NWSL does play through the summer. That is not changing to any reporting that we've seen. And in fact, I think that's something that NWSL does see as an actual competitive advantage.
Mhm.
Now, again, how does that work now that the transfer market is being a little bit upheaved? I don't know, but that is the general footprint as March through November. There's no reporting that I've seen that is changing anytime soon. So there's that.
Right.
Other one that I think needs to be addressed. Parzival asked about if money can be moved from team to team like Gamma. From this particular rule, that has not been talked about.
Yeah.
But in general, NWSL does have allocation money that they're trading back and forth because they do have a rule in their salary budget rules about a net positive transfer spend. So they cannot bring in more than they give out, basically, which again is something that I actually think a lot of leagues should look at.
Yeah.
I actually really like this rule. I know it's not great necessarily when it comes to player acquisition, but I think having some sort of like salaries are one thing. I think we've all agreed, but like a payer actually getting paid isn't the thing that bothers me. It's paying a gajillion dollars to acquire a player, and who knows where that money actually goes.
Oh, it dibs rights. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is something they do have. But yes, NWSL does have allocation money for people to go for teams to go out and buy / sign players, similar to the way MLS does it. Which, again, this has been something NWSL fans have been kind of fearful of as becoming a little too MLS-y, and I understand that. But I do think giving teams money to play with isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
In a league that is controlled by the owners and not fully freely open the way that a lot of the European leagues are. Because NWSL, like MLS, is a collective. It's not an individual clubs that happen to play in the league. So there are rules like that. So there you go.
Yes, we did have a couple of cards and calls. I know that Ropes was looking at one particular the handball no call in the Everton match. I know that Ropes was looking to go there.
Oh goodness!
There was the Jokeresh moment in the Arsenal match, and then there was the Morgan Gibbs White incident in Forest and City, where Sean Dyche was probably going to get an envelope from the league office for what he said in let me find what Sean Dyche said, and let's see if we can determine the size of the envelope that he is going to be receiving from the league office, because it was a lovely piece of I'm not saying it, but I'm saying it, one of those kind of things. And it was where is it? So go ahead and start. I'm going to look for the Sean Dyche quote. You go ahead and start talking about stuff.
I do want to talk about if the Jokeres one is involving the goalkeeper coming out and cleaning him out on the sideline.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I texted my friend who's also a Arsenal supporter and a referee, and I said, spiritually, that's a red card.
Yeah.
But like by the letter of the law, that's still just a yellow. But like that, it's not a red card because from a dog show perspective, the direction of play is not headed toward goal. It was pretty far away from goal, so distance to goal is out there. Distance to ball, I think, is within the realm. But the defender's also equation of it. There were multiple, at least one defender on the same plane looking down the line as the goalkeeper. So it doesn't meet any of those criteria, but like the goalkeeper absolutely had no intention of playing the ball. You can kind of see that, and wasn't really trying to was not taking care to make sure the other player wasn't like hurt or anything out of it. I think it's definitely the right call to give a yellow card because it doesn't rise to the actual level of any red card, but this is definitely one of those where the goalkeeper knew the rules, right? And said, "Oh, I can do this and get away with it and only get a yellow card," and he did. But spiritually, it felt like a red card type of challenge because had that been done anywhere closer to goal, he might have been a little bit in trouble.
Yes.
So I do feel like that is. I watched it and I was like, "Oof, yeah, he's lucky. He knew what he was doing."
Yes. The game winner, the eventual game winner in City and Forest, you had Ryan Cherky drives the ball between the legs of Morgan Gibbs White and Vardial after Vardial heads down a Bernardo Silva corner, and you have Sean Dyche supporting his players' claims that Gibbs White had been fouled by Nico O'Reilly in the build-up to the winner. Dyche's outburst against the referee Robert Jones was, quote, "Everyone," and I can't do Sean Dyche today, so I'm just going to read it. I can't do it as Sean Dyche. I can't quite do it like this, I can't quite do that today. Everyone can see it. There's plenty of people here. There's TV cameras here. Everyone can see their performance today. Miles off it. It's unacceptable, in my opinion, because it affects the game massively. Then their center half boots the ball away. Ref does nothing. Then he jumps on the floor as if he's injured. Nothing wrong with him. The Cherky goal, Morgan Gibbs White, he's pushed to the floor. Then he tries to get up to block it, and it goes through his body because he can't get in position to block it. An unacceptable performance. I'm a big fan of referees. I think they have a really hard job, and they mostly do it really well. But then I get in trouble How am I getting in trouble? Look at the footage, end quote. Sean Dyche is getting himself an envelope, if not a suspension, for that one.
Yeah. I do want to take a little bit of I want to agree with him a little bit in the thing he talked about with booting the ball away. And this is something that, again, I'm a little jaded because as an Arsenal supporter, we got multiple red cards because of this last year. And now all of a sudden, it doesn't seem to be an automatic yellow card. And I know that there has been a change in the way that this is enforced, but it does seem like you went from any possible thing that you might tap the ball away after no matter how close after the foul it was, is a yellow card, to very clear, in my opinion, like cases of continuing after the whistle is blown, very obviously, or knocking the ball away to very clearly disrupt play, just delay the restart. Like those are not being given in the same way. And I understand not having as strict of a standard as they did have last year and the year before, where it was like, well, you did it. There's a, oh, you breathed too hard. The ball happened to roll away. Here's a yellow card, because that seems like how it was going. Versus now it's like, but he literally kicked the ball away. You can see him do it, and they're getting away with it. I do think that has become an issue, because it you can't go so hard in one direction and then even come back to the middle, let alone it feels like they've gone past it. So I agree with him in that regard. That has been frustrating for me as a fan to watch, when we had to watch all last year players get yellow cards for just being in the way of the ball, trying to get back. Like, it was a little too harsh, I think, in previous seasons. So I think it's hard to just automatically go back and forth like that, especially when it seems like players are getting away with a lot more. The rest of it, look, we've talked about VAR having a higher standard of intervention this year, it seems, or at least they're trying to have a higher standard of intervention this year in the Premier League, because I don't want to go back and re-referee games. I do think what we are also now veering into is not correcting clear and obvious errors, because it's possibly maybe not super clear and obvious.
Right.
I think sometimes you are allowed to look at a play once or twice and go, oh, okay, actually, yeah, we need to take a look at this. Again, that is the VAR's job, right? They should be able to take the time and go, actually, yeah, this, as I've said, allow the official on the field to make the final decision. Right? Send them to the monitor, say, hey, man, you may have missed this one. Or, hey, man, we have an incident that we want you to review. And again, fouls are all subjective, right?
Yes.
We may think fouls have very clear cut, oh, if you do this and this, that's a foul. And some do. But most of the time, they're still subjective in a lot of things.
Yeah.
How is the game going? What is the game state at that point in time? What actually happened in this moment versus, what do we see on the replay? Because, you can look at it and go, oh, well, he kicked him. It's like, well, he didn't really kick him. He just, missed the ball and the other player happened to be there. So, there's a lot of things you can look at. But again, why are we not allowing the on-field official to go back and look at their own and go, okay, oh, yeah, I did miss that. Because as an official, sometimes you cannot see everything. Or your view of something may not be the best view, because if you're looking at it, even if you're in your good position, there are times that contact or fouls happen that you can't see. Especially if your assistant referee isn't the one, it's not going toward the direction of your assistant referee, and you can't, check like, hey, was that a foul? Or the AR can't be like, yeah, I got a foul here too. You're the only person out there. And again, I think this is something that VAR can be a tool to help the only official who has decision-making power on the field.
Right.
But you don't want to be intervening all the time. And that's
yes.
The tightrope you're walking of what does intervention look like and what does re-refereeing look like.
Yes, and we're trying to get away from re-refereeing.
But I do agree that Manchester City should be booted from the league. So I agree with Sean Dyche on that.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yanks abroad. Let's go there, because I will keep my I will keep my question to you about semantics, and it has to do basically with when you're sliding in for tackles and it's contact but with cleats in the process of tackles and stomping on folks or inadvertently stomping on folks, and administration of calling a foul versus timing, because you'll see times where contact is made and slide tackles there, it's a fantastic tackle, but then you end up studs up, you make contact, and then sometimes it's called, sometimes it's not. The semantics of what you're thinking and the thought process is in those tackling situations where you either make contact with the ball first, then work your way through, and then you make contact with studs after the act is completed, versus missing the ball, coming in first or coming in second, then studs contact. That kind of semantics. I want to save that one because that was what was stuck in my head after fouls and things like that. So I want to save that because if we go down that road, we're going to keep going and we're going to miss a couple of other things. So that's next week. And the yearbook is probably going to go to next week too. So we'll save that. Yanks abroad. Let's go there. And I don't know if you've heard, but apparently this Christian Pulisic person is pretty decent. He opens the scoring for Milan in their 3-0 win over Hellas Verona, 8th goal of the season, second in the race for top scorer behind Lautaro Martinez with 9. And it was, so you end up with Pulisic, and this is a Gazzetta dello Sport, going 1 to 10, low to high. Pulisic gets a 7 for the goal. Weston McKennie gets a 6.5, playing 90 minutes in a 2-0 win for Juve at Pisa. Yunus Musa, a 5.5 for under 45, and a 1-0 loss to Inter Milan. Benjamin Kremasky ended up with a cup of coffee in his match for Parma. So you end up with Pulisic and getting high marks. Gazzetta dello Sport, quote, "The entire attack revolved around him without Leao and with Nkunku down in the first half, but he felt the goal and didn't let go on the first good opportunity, changing the face of the match. McKennie gritted his teeth after his recent muscle strain, moved from flank to flank, partly as a winger, partly as a fullback, partly everywhere in the second half. An inexhaustible engine that needs to be renewed," end quote. So there you go. Renew his contract.
I think Weston McKennie's rounded a little bit of a corner here with Juventus to the point where, like, I don't think there's the constant, is he good enough for the team that had been kind of plaguing him the past couple years. Both, by the way, Pulisic and McKennie are in my yearbook superlatives for very different reasons. I think McKennie, a lot of the reporting around him has been very, I think, if you read and assemble everything, it's, he's become a little bit of an actual professional soccer player. Not a dude who plays professional soccer. And I think that's been a good change from him. Reports about his fitness and fitness regimen, and I feel actually comfortable taking my shirt off at the pool, which is a crazy thing for a professional soccer player to say. It's like, bro, y'all are the ones who have like the best bodies of any athlete, like, and you were feeling fat. Like, that's not saying he was, saying that's how he felt.
That's being self-conscious. I mean, I get that.
Right. But the fact that he has kind of taken his job a little bit more seriously in 2025 is a really positive thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully it continues, because I do think it's fair to say that I'm not saying was immature, because that's not fair.
Right.
I just think he was a little unserious he's just a guy who's good at the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's taken it a little bit more seriously, realized this is a job that I need to be looking at day in and day out. Not the 2 hours I'm at practice and the 2 hours I play a game on the weekend.
Yep. England, Fulham 1-0 win at West Ham. They've won all 3 Premier League matches since Jedi Robinson has returned to the starting lineup. Sky, on a scale of 1 to 10, gave him an 8, playing the full 90 minutes. Brendan Aronson gets a 7 for 90 minutes, getting an assist in the draw at Sunderland. Obviously, Tyler Adams injured, Chris Richards injured for the stomp on his foot. So, dude had to get stitches for getting stomped on his foot, man. That's not cool. That is not cool.
Yeah, that wasn't good. No, but like, I think if you're a USMNT fan, and we literally talked about this on the podcast, like at the end of last window, we were going, Jedi Robinson, it's the end of November and he ain't played a soccer game in a very long time. Are we sure he'll even be good enough for the World Cup? I think we can put those fears to rest a little bit. Sorry, Max Arfson, you will not be starting a World Cup match if things are going the way things are going right now for Mr. Jedi Robinson. It's just a positive. That's just where we're at, right? Now, for Brendan Aronson, maybe the most surprising of all USMNTers in a domestic league this year. And I mean that because I don't think anyone really thought that he would be at this level of contribution, but mainly this level of actual, like this volume of play for Leeds. I think a lot of people thought he's still with the team, great, but like, is he actually going to play in the Premier League? Because we kind of remember where he was the last time Leeds was in the Prem, and it wasn't great from him. Leeds wasn't great, right? I think that like Leeds was not in a good spot at that point in time. Excuse me. Leeds weren't great. I need to be English.
Well, no, you're talking
No, John, we are talking about the English Premier League.
Yeah, so it's a singular.
So
it is a
singular teams are treated as plural across the pond, John.
Well, whatever. Okay, fine. Sure.
Yeah.
Leeds United singular franchise. Yes. So that's
grammar down here. Yeah.
Yes.
Leeds not a good team last time they were in the Premier League, right? I think that's very fair to say. Yeah. Like a lot of teams who get promoted, they very quickly came back down. This time around, they do have a little bit more of a Premier League ready game plan. First off,
yeah. Dominic Calvert roster 7-6.
Yeah, right. But the fact that Brendo is still so impactful and playing so much is a testament to his work rate, but his talent, and he has truly improved a lot. I think since the last time we saw him in the Premier League, it's a pot. I do not think he has he's not unseated anyone ahead of him in the player pool or on the depth chart for the national team necessarily. But you have a dude playing this well in the Premier League, a dude who is consistently playing for a Premier League club. It's a good thing to have. And he is versatile, right? We know he can play both kind of an attacking midfielder or a winger. Shoot, put him at fullback. He'll probably do that job all right. You know, it's nice to have a guy of that playing at this level. 6 months before World Cup?
Yeah.
Good for Brendo. That's all I'll say.
Not a bad thing. All right. What's the latest for the Soccer for USPod?
Well, we're still in holiday break mode.
Boo!
I know. But we will have something next week. We'll be doing our annual New Year's resolutions for men's and women's national teams and U.S. soccer as a whole. Spoiler alert, they will involve heavily, especially when we're talking about U.S. soccer, they'll involve heavily capitalizing on the World Cup and actually trying to do that, not just trying to make money. Because those are two different things, John.
Yes. We will be catching up with you. And a quick note to our discussion about soccer holdings. It appears Philip Goodrum has been acquired by Lexington SC in a 6-figure transfer fee for Lou City and for Soccer Holdings. Transaction includes conditional clauses which could see it become the largest between two USL championship clubs in league history. Full financial terms not disclosed. Deal is pending league and federation approval. Quote from Danny Cruz. Goodrum joined in August of 24 after a paid transfer from Tulsa. 38 games, 17 goals, 13 in 2025. And so 2 USL Players Shield winning teams with Lou City. So someone that we know here, Philip Goodrum, gets transferred, an intra-league transfer from Lou City to Lex. That's going to make the Bluegrass Derby real interesting come 26. We'll catch up with Kaylor Hodges about this, and we'll have that for you tomorrow. But Philip Goodrum.
Good for Phil.
6 figures going from 6 figures back to Lou City from Lex. Lex is spending a boatload of money. We're going to find out where that's coming from. As always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for dropping by. We got news to get into and stuff, as the kids say. So don't be a stranger. Keep your yearbook handy for next week, and keep my question in your brain about process of slide tackle, studs up, those kinds of things, and when you call it, when you don't, those kinds of things. Literally, it was what stuck in my head with the Chris Richards injury and getting stomped on and all those kinds of things. So stomping and Chris Richards and studs up and all that kind of stuff. That was what I was going to get into, but we'll put a bookmark in that too, and we'll see you next week.